Hello, everybody. Welcome to a day that I normally don't stream, and we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a little, because they have a category for this on Twitch, we're going to do a little game development, and we're going to use Gamemaker. Now, I do want to say before we start, I'm going to put a thing here in the chat. You can type DevMe to enter a drawing for a key to Gamemaker Pro for Windows. Now, if you're picked, you will go to Yo-Yo Games website, register an account, it's free, and then you can redeem this code. This is literally just a code for the GameMaker Pro. You don't have to have this. You can use the free version. There is a free version on Steam, and if you already have that installed, you can actually play along with us on this. But the Pro version allows you to basically take your Windows apps, make a Windows app, an actual compiled Windows app. It can also do Mac and Linux. This is just a code for that version. And you can look at the Yo-Yo Games website for more detail on like what's different between Pro and the free version. We're not going to be doing anything today that the free version can't do that I'm aware of. So what tools are we going to be using? GameMaker, obviously. The free version is fine, as I just said, or you can go to yoyogames.com. You can install it now if you want to play along. Paint programs are very helpful because you're going to be generating possibly artwork. Paint can work, paint.net. If you don't have the ability to install software on your computer, pixlr.com is a great website that lets you have an editor in your browser. And then there's Photoshop, which is commercial. And you can get Photoshop Elements, which is a little cheaper. And of course, there's GIMP. It's not PowerPoint, it's Google Docs' thing. GIMP is free, a little bit more complicated to figure out for people sometimes in Photoshop, but very, very powerful. Sound editors are very helpful. Audacity is a great editor, lets you like edit WAV files and MP3s and cut and paste and run filters on them. And there's a cool little program that's free called SFXR. I'm gonna let people have some time to do the DevMe entries as we go through the day. I see right now DB, Retro Bond, Alexander, Cool Shark, Ed Tucker, Epic Josh, Gamer, Bunny, Krabby, Mad Cat, Rob, Stig, Tuga, and Nazi. You guys are all entered, so you don't have to type it again. But a sound editor, SFXR is kind of free. Most of these things are free except for like Photoshop and obviously the GameMaker paid versions. There are tools out there for beginners to dive into things with no cost, which is really cool. And then links to all the stuff that I just said are at my website. If one of the mods, well, I think I can do it. If you do exclamation game dev, it'll give you a link to almost everything that we're talking about here today. And that's what you'll get when you click that link. Links that take you to different things. GameMaker available on Steam if you want to just get the free version. They do have the paid versions, but obviously the Humble Bundle is the best way to go. The GameMaker website itself, Yo-Yo Games. This is really good right now. This Humble Bundle, and it's only got 21 hours left. If you pay, well, first off, if you have no money, come all the way down here and put your email address in, which you guys see mine, but it's not like I conceal it. And you'll get these 2 free games and the source code to GameMaker for them. That's considered purchasing the bundle. You don't get this other stuff, but it locks you in. So in the next 30 days, if you find that you have $6 or $12, you can then buy in still and still get this other stuff. If you only pay $5 or $6, less than $6, so $5.99 or less, you get these things. You get Steam titles for a lot of this stuff. So you can see these ones that have Steam links. You can actually get the game itself too. Some of them give you the game and say source code. If you do $6, and this is the key one if you're interested in GameMaker, you'll get Studio Professional version of GameMaker and all these other games, and a lot of them have source code in GameMaker, so you can see how they work. If you pay $12, you'll get the Android export module. This program normally is $150, and I think this is $300. So for $12, you're getting $450. If you do the $6 one, like Blockhead just mentions, if down the road in the next 30 days or so, and don't hold me to that, but I think it's around 30 days, you can put the extra 6 in and get this stuff. So very well worth it. But I'm going to be giving away a key to this. I'm not giving away the bundle itself. I actually screwed up when I bought an extra copy and it put it in my account. So most of these games I'm going to give away on stream, the Steam codes to the games. So I apologize, but I will be giving away a Studio Pro key. I mentioned if you don't have the ability to install software, you can go to pixlr.com. This is an editor that works really well inside your browser. And of course, there's paint.net, Audacity for audio editing, and this little SFXR program, very, very cool. It's a free program. I'm going to run it here real quick. You can download it. They have a Mac version, they have Linux, but it'll generate random sound files. So you can see, I say I want to get a pickup sound, like say Mario Maker when he picks up a coin. You just keep clicking it till you hear a sound you like, or you can manually tweak things. Once you got one you like, you can export it to a WAV file. You want a laser sound? We got random laser sounds. Find one you like, export it to a WAV file. So very cool way to generate some stuff. So remember, crewgamingchannel.com/gamedev, or you can type !gamedev to get links to all that stuff. All right, I want to stress some warnings. I don't make games for a living. I do code. I'm a C++ assembly programmer. I do embedded system stuff, and I also do C++ Windows development, but I do not make games. I have done some work on some indie titles for about 10, 15 years past for the Atari Jaguar console, not in a lead role, but helping out people who were working on titles and were having some issues. I did some work for the cartridge version of Painter, which I showed on stream probably a year or two ago. And I helped with the CD version of a game called Black Ice White Noise. I also have wrote, like every programmer, I think, a Tetris clone in C way back for Windows. So I am MLG. But I'm learning Gamemaker as I do this. So if you're a veteran of this, cut me some slack. Literally, I just started playing with Gamemaker about 2 or 3 days ago. And I've just played with it for a few minutes. So why Gamemaker? Well, it's free. There are paid versions and the Humble Bundle deal. It's very easy to get started with. It has been used to make commercial games. And we want to make games, and it has the word make and game in its name. Game Maker, make games. So it seems pretty cool. And it's a good start that we can use our skills to move to other tools later. Commercial games made with Gamemaker: Hotline Miami, Spelunky, Nidhogg, Monster Slim, Gunpoint, Risk of Rain, and more. But you're probably saying you want to develop the next DayZ. Well, good luck. Gamemaker is a good start, though, for getting into development and playing around. And we will be shifting these series, if people watch them, to maybe trying to use Unity and even the Unreal Engine to maybe show the differences. And there's free options for those too, but they do get more complex. If you become rich making games, don't forget me on your way to the top and Gizmo Smells. So let's get started. Follow along if you wish. All right, give me 1 second. And I apologize for I'm doing this in 1080p. So, all right, so we are back in Gamemaker. I'm doing this at 1080p. Hopefully it looks decent. So we're going to go under the new, and we're going to create a project. We're going to call this, Crew Demo. So we got our Crew Demo, and I've got it set to save on my D drive in my source code directory under Gamemaker. Now we have our first project. So this is the standard look of it. There are different themes and color schemes. So it's up to you to decide. I kind of like the dark thing, but let's just go through some of these categories. These are the different parts that you have to make your game. We have sprites. We have, think of sprites as skins. They are what makes things look nice or look the way they do, but it's not the actual object, like say a player. It's the skin on a player, the skin on an object. There are sounds. Sounds can be WAV files in MP3. WAV files, like what we saw with that FSXR, typically used for like sound effects like an explosion, a gunshot, uh, maybe a death sound, quick, short sounds. They're usually saved as WAV files, and they don't use a lot of processor because they aren't compressed. Music and things that maybe play in the background are best used as MP3s, but MP3s do require more CPU because they are highly compressed. So they're only really useful for background music and game sound, like in game music. Then we have our backgrounds. Those are kind of like the background images that we might see, say the sky or the grass, possibly. We won't worry about paths and scripts and shaders and fonts and timelines. Not very useful stuff right now. I'm going to give away the game code probably about halfway through this frizzle, but I want to give people a chance to enter, and I don't want to like. I figure we'll get to a point where maybe we'll have a little bit of a breather, and then we'll do the drawing. So we're not going to worry about timelines and all that, but objects. Objects are very important. Objects are like, say, your players, the enemies, walls, and stuff. So those are very important. If you Rooms are always important. If you don't have a room, you don't have something like a level for your game to be on. So you have to have rooms and objects, and generally a sprite at least. So those are very important. Included files, extensions, macros. We're not going to worry about any of that stuff. You want to make sure too, if you're playing with this, that you have it set so your target is Windows. I have the Pro version, so I can do Windows, Mac OS. I can do Android, Windows 8, I believe, and there's some other Android options and Windows options. These YYCs use the Yo-Yo compiler or whatever they call it, so they actually generate true EXEs, executables, that are much faster running. Generally, when you do just the Windows, you get a Gamemaker bundle, which works, but ideally, if you're going to publish a game, you want to compile it to an EXE. And it will do HTML5, but you have to pay for that feature. So I want to mention real quick, I know some people have talked about Scratch, which is a kid's kind of programming language from MIT, very graphical. This has a lot of the same elements to start with, but this has a lot of coding elements that can be brought in later. I know a lot of people ask me, how can I code like plugins like your UHC plugin for Minecraft? Learning to develop plugins for Minecraft is cool, but it does require you to learn Java. It does require you to kind of set up a Java development environment. It is a little bit more complex. This is a great way to learn how to do stuff visually and transition to coding, but also you can do more than just what can be done in Minecraft. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Let's try something. So I really think this is a great tool. We're going to try to do a lot of it visually, which is not necessarily the most powerful way to do stuff with Gamemaker. You want to start getting into the coding to get really serious, but you got to start somewhere. So we're going to make a couple sprites. So what we're going to do, you can use these icons or you can come up to the top up here. I just like to right click on sprites and say create sprite. All right, so you always want to name your objects, your sprites, your sounds, give them names, and be specific. I think it's always smart to preface them with kind of a header. So for sprites, I think SPR makes perfect sense for a header. So I'm going to type SPR underscore, and I'm going to call this player. So we've got a sprite, SPR underscore player. Now we could just say player here, but maybe we're going to have an object, which we have to have, called player. And it wouldn't be great to have them have the exact same name. That would be very confusing. So I think it's very smart to preface them with something that makes sense. And I think, SPR for sprite makes a lot of sense. So we're going to go ahead and edit the sprite. We don't have a sprite yet, so we're going to create one. And we're going to go with 32 by 32. It's default. All right, so here is our sprite right now. It's empty. If we double click it, you can see I can kind of scroll in, and this is an image editor. So for now on our player, we're going to be very, very generic. And that's the great thing about using tools like this. You don't have to have your artwork yet. You can start with just placeholders. So we're going to use the fill, and we're going to go with blue because I love blue. Why is it not filling? Something's stuck. We're already screwed. It seems to be stuck on the, there we go. It's like stuck. It won't give me the, it's giving me the icon. We can't develop a game already. All right, let's try this again. Edit sprite, new sprite, 32 by 32. Let's double click it. Why is it not filling? What's going on here, people? That works. Oh, there it goes. I don't know what was going on there. All right, so we have our player. It took us a little while, but we got there. I accidentally clicked on that. All right, so we have a player. Let's create one more, and let's call this one walls, because we want to have something that kind of keeps our player locked in the room. So we have our wall, and then we're going to hit new, 32 by 32. It might be my push to talk. Yeah, yeah, that's what it is. All right, so it's because I have push to talk, and it's confusing the game. When I play with this, obviously I'm not using push to talk. So now we have a black wall and a blue player. So we're good there. So that is part of the battle. Now we have to have objects, because remember, those are just skins. So let's create two objects. We need to create a player object and a wall object. These are the physical entities in the game that'll then have these skins. So we're going to call our object obj. Kind of, we want to always have something to signify what it is by the name, and then underscore player. All right, so we have our player. Then we're going to click sprite here and select our player sprite. And you can see now it's put it on it. And we're going to say OK. So now we have our player. We're going to repeat the same thing, but with the wall. Create a new object. So we have that. We're going to call this obj wall. And we're going to hit here to select the skin for the wall, and we're going to click OK. Okay, so now we have our two objects skinned, beautifully skinned, and we have the sprites for those skins, but we don't have a room yet. So let's create a room. All right, so here's our room. Let's go to the settings tab, and I'm going to call this RM1. So it's room one. I'm going to go with since our pixels are 32 by 32, I'm going to try to go with 1280 by 720, but that doesn't work exactly divisible with 32. So we're going to do 1280 by 704. So this is our room. You can see here, this is our basically our kind of quadrant of all the rooms. So now we have a room. Let's go to objects and let's go to our walls. And we're going to put a wall surrounding the room. So we're going to just click and drag. Now, if you want to delete something, you hold control and right click. All right, so now we have basically a bounding box to kind of keep this room because we want the player to not be able to go through these walls. But let's make it a little bit more complex. Let's put some extra walls in this. All right, so we kind of have kind of a room here. Now let's go back to objects again and let's put the player in the room. And now our player starts over there. Now we'll click OK. And honestly, we actually have theoretically kind of a game right now. So we're going to save it and then we're going to tell it to compile and run it. And here's our game. But you can hear me clicking the keys. We can't do anything. Yeah, we'll be streaming tomorrow. So we have a game, but it's very limited in the fact that we can't really do anything. So we need to be able to move these players. You know, there has to be some way of doing it. So what we want to do is if we double click on our player, you can see we have associated with this player, we have events and we have actions. So we're going to add what's called a keyboard event. And here we say add event keyboard, and we're going to pick left. And now what happens when they hit the left key? Let's move. So we drag the move over. Let's click left. And this speed is how many pixels we want to move. 0 means no movement. We're going to move 4. Okay, so now we've got that in there. Obviously, you probably understand what would be some of the other stuff to add, but let's not add those yet. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's save it. And this is what's nice about this is you can stop at any point and just run your program. Now you can see if I hit left, we start moving. Now when I let go of it, it keeps moving. And we'll address that in a minute. And look at that, we go through walls. But it does move left. So we've actually added a character that can now move, which is quite impressive. But we have some other issues. So we're going to go ahead and add some more keyboard events. And we're going to say right. We're going to do movement to the right. We'll set the speed to 4. Let's add another keyboard event for up. Drag a movement over up. Now we have that. And let's add another event keyboard for down. Let's drag a movement over down. So we have left, up, right, down. Pretty impressive. Let's test it. Now I didn't save it there. You don't have to save it, but I recommend doing that. So let's try the arrow keys. But you can see whatever key I stop hitting, it keeps moving that way. And still, we go through walls. So we got to conquer those two issues. Let's first, let's put something in to stop it from moving. So we can go to the keyboard and you can see down here there's a no key event. So for the no key, if we set the movement to stop and leave it at 0, let's see if that fixes our problem. All right, here we go. Look at that, it stops. Woohoo, we've developed a game, although still goes through the walls. So How do we stop that? I don't know. I think that pretty much ends the stream. So let's go back to our player and let's look at the add events. You can see there's an event called collision. So if we select the collision and then we select, remember this is the player right now that we're working with. So if he collides with a wall, we can set a movement stop 0. Maybe that'll work. Let's run it. Look at that, we still go through it. But we told it if it collides with a wall to stop. So what could be wrong? Now we haven't actually done anything wrong yet. But what we have to do is we have to tell Gamemaker that our objects are solid and where they can be the collision boxes around them. So if we go to the object and we say that it uses physics, we can set a box around it and hit modify collision shape. This tells Gamemaker that anything inside this area is the actual player that can make contact with other subjects, other objects. And then we'll do the same thing for the wall. Now we're going to say the wall is solid. And we're going to do a bounding box and we're going to fix that. Do that, hit OK. But we're going to give this a density. The way the density works, think of it as like the mass. And if you set it to 0, it means it's not movable. So think of it 0.0 as Thor's hammer to everybody else. You ain't moving it. So now we have that. So we're going to hit save. And let's see if we've done enough now to make collisions work. And there you go. We have collisions. Can't go through the walls. Ship it, we're done. So that's really all it took, is to turn on the physics options. Now there's a little bit more to the physics, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, because you might want to use the physics, especially say if you're having a game like Flappy Bird, where the bird is going to start to fall when you're not flapping its wings because of gravity. And in that case, you would have a gravity on Y because he's being pulled down. But you can see we've really got the basics on it. So let's tweak things and make things a little cooler. We're going to add a background. So we're going to right click, say create background. And we're going to say load, or not load. We're going to say, we'll call this BG. And we called room 1, so we're going to call this BG1. We're going to say edit. And then we are going to load, and I did some generated stuff here. We're going to select that, click OK. This is a 1280 by 704, which if you remember, this was an image. This is the Minecraft grass tiled to be that size. And I just used paint.net to do it. So we have that. So now we have a background. If we go into our room, there is a background tab. And you can see here we can select our background and then hit OK. Let's save it and run it. So now you can see it's even looking nicer. Got all of our cool features, and now we have a background. So, I mean, this is starting to look like the old Atari 2600 adventure game, which probably nobody here is old enough besides maybe Ed to have seen. But we now have a background. But let's tweak things a little bit. I'm not liking this player. This blue square, its time has come. Even though the blue square story touched Affleck's life, we're going to get rid of it. So we're going to, and this is what's beautiful about this kind of stuff is that's a placeholder. You can leave it like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to edit it and we're going to load it. And we're going to go to my desktop and some assets. And here's Safi, because Safi is going to be prominent in this game. So now we've replaced Safi with the blue square with Safi. Now the wall, I'm going to show you one thing that's cool and one thing that's not cool when I change this. We're going to change the wall the same way, but we're going to change it to stone. All right, so we're looking pretty good there, but let's save it and run it. Hey, count them. You're going to see one little issue with the wall. It stretched the wall, so it looks kind of ugly. But now we have Safi. So what can we do? Now, this is one of the things that I'm not very experienced with Gamemaker yet, because literally I've only played with it for a few days now. So we're going to fix that, but it's kind of time consuming the way I fix it. As you can see, we've got, if I hold right control, or hold control and right click, I can delete stuff. So I'm going to go a little silent here and delete a bunch of this stuff. Now, this is where I'm a little confused. When I use the wall, I have to pretty much click all these. I don't know if there's a way to like say I want to place it here and then keep copying it all across instead of stretching it. So there might be an easier way of doing this. If you're a Gamemaker expert, let me know. Because if you drag it, it stretches it and it looks horrible. So this will work. I know I put an extra one over there on the far left, but we will fix it. Bear with me. It just doesn't look right. I mean, we could stick with the stretching, but I don't like it. It kind of looks horrible. And we're kind of mimicking Minecraft by doing this. So kind of a 2D Minecraft. Control plus shift plus left mouse button. All right, let me try that. You're a genius, Biddy Gamer. Thank you. So let's just do a little bit of our stuff here. Not too important that we get this 100% accurate. I want to have a little bit of a room. And again, like I said, I'm by no means an expert at this program. Just playing around with it, doing my thing, hoping that other people might get interested in it. Because anytime people start getting interested in game development, I think that's amazing. All right, so we fixed it here a little bit. Let's go ahead and run this. All right, so now it looks a lot nicer. This kind of looks like a 2D Minecraft. But it isn't very exciting for Safi to be here with nothing else to do. I mean, she just runs around. I mean, I know Safi likes to probably run around. She's probably carrying a knife and flint and steel. But let's add another sprite. We're going to call this one the enemy. So that's our enemy sprite. We're going to create a new one, 32 by 32. And who would be Safi's enemy? You guys all know where this is going. You guys all know what's happening here. It's Gizmo. So we have our sprite. Let's create an object now for the enemy. And we have our enemy. Let's pick the skin. uses physics. Let's go ahead and set our collision around it. Do all this while we're here. Now we have that. Let's go back to our room and let's put Mr. Gizmo over here. All right, so let's run this. So now we have our Safi and our evil Gizmo, and we can lead Safi on her charge to victory. Safi on the run, coming closer. She's there. She sees Gizmo. She's going in for the kill. Ah, what? Nothing happens. All right, so we're closer. We're getting closer. So now we have Safi in the game. We have walls protecting her, and we have our enemy, the Gizman, who Safi has sworn to kill. So let's see what we can do. One of the things we did before with the player, and I'm going to do something different here, and people might say, hold it, that's not right or whatever. Just bear with me. We had our collision for the wall, but let's put a collision in for Safi with the Gizmo. And when this happens, what we want to do is I want to play a sound. And here's sounds. I'm going to drag that over here for now. We're going to say no sound for now. We don't have any sounds, so let's add a sound. So we're going to go over here to sounds, and we're going to say sound, and this is going to be die. And I already have some sounds saved. So let me go to my desktop. And I have a dead wave file. And we're going to hit OK. Actually, let me go ahead and play that. Let me go here. That is our dead sound. High quality stuff. Now let's go back to our player. And when she collides with Giz, we're going to play a sound, and we're going to say sound die. And we don't want it to loop. Let's just see if this works. All right, so here we have Safi and Giz. Will anything happen when we get over to Giz? Safi's running. She's stalking. She's on the run. And wow, that's loud. But it works. So it's like every time she touches Giz, we hear that crazy death sound. So she's stabbing the heck out of Giz. But we don't want that to continually happen. Ideally, we want it to happen one time, and we want Giz to die. If Safi was here, she could record some wave files for me, but she's not here. I think she's actually streaming right now. So let's go in here real quick and on that collision. And if we look here, there is a object trash can here, instance delete, object delete. We can drag that over here because you can have multiple actions. And we could say, when this occurs, trash the instance. And we could pick objects. So we're going to leave it on self for now because I just want to show you, if you're not paying attention, what would happen. This isn't the way it would really work. We're going to save it. We're going to run it. Let's get Safi on the hunt again here. She's on the hunt. Here we go. Here we go. And oh, Safi lost. That's not what would happen. So what happened here is on this destroy, we would want to destroy Gizmo instead of her. So we'll change it to that. We'll save it and we'll run it. So Safi on the hunt. This is what would truly happen if it was a legitimate fight. And Sappy wins. The world is safe again. No Gizmo. Now we could do other events like when Sappy gets that kill, we could have a situation where we update the score, we reduce lives for a player, all that kind of stuff. We're going to get more into those kind of things on a later stream. Today, I just want to kind of go through the basics. I mean, just so you can see, literally, we've really wrote no code at all, and we've done quite a bit. Uh, very easily, you can code, and we're going to talk a little bit about the code and show a little bit of coding in a minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do our giveaway. So if you haven't entered, type DevMe now. These are the people. Remember, this is just a code. I'll send you a code. You have to go to yoyogames.com, create an account, which is free, and then it'll have a thing on there. Humble Bundle users, enter your code, put the code in, and it will give you a professional version of Gamemaker Pro, of Gamemaker, the professional edition, which is what I'm using here. This does not have the Android export module, though. So right now, DB, Retro, Bond, Melon, Alexander, Awesome Crazy, Cool Shark, Ed, Epic, Josh, Gamer Noob, George, Bunny, Krabby, Mad Cat, Rob, Stig, Stood, and Saiku, and Tuganazi. You 19 people are all entered. I'll give you 20 people now because of Skull. I'll give you about 1 more minute. You must be following to win. I will send you the code as a private message on Twitch. You do have to respond within, once one of the mods or me types a message in chat saying that you won, you have 1 minute to respond back with something like, I want it. All right, last 10 seconds, 15 seconds if you want to get entered. Remember, this is just a code for the professional version. $150 value, nothing to sneeze at, but this is just the code for this professional edition. You'll be able to do Windows, Mac, and Linux with the professional version. It's the $6 version, but it's not the $6 Humble Bundle. Again, Blockhead, it is just professional version of this. This is not going to give you the $6 and other dollar games and stuff. This is just the professional edition of it. All right, I'm going to draw. Here we go. Epic Josh. Is Epic Josh in here? I think he left. Did he leave? So Epic Josh, you have basically, when this says 1 minute, we'll say 20. If you haven't responded, you don't get it, and we move on. You have to be here. And I don't think he's in chat anymore. So we'll give him till the 120. But I don't see him in the viewer list. You snooze, you lose. But I'm going to give him the full 120 just in case one of you guys is his buddy. And you're like, Epic Josh, man, dude, get on there. Nice to see that Epic Josh wasn't liking the game development, though. Poor Epic Josh. You got 10 seconds, Epic Josh. Yes, epic fail. All right, getting ready to re-roll. 120. Too late if he comes in now. Krabby Patty. Krabby Patty. Mr. Krabby Patty. Do you want it? So 1 minute, 15 seconds because Cloud has just notified. So 1 minute, 15 for Krabby Patty to respond. Just let me know if you want it or if you should have me move on. Krabby Patty is in the chat. He's either AFK or he doesn't care. Like I said, 1 minute 15. So we are down to 15 seconds right now. And if you're not here and responding, life is tough. It's Column, it's Gamemaker. All right. Time's up. So we are going to roll again. I'll give a split second here for Callum to get in if he wants to get in, but he may not care. So, all right, we're rolling. Awesome Crazy Gamer. Awesome Crazy Gamer. I'm about ready to give up too if Awesome doesn't respond. Awesome has again till 1 minute 15. Awesome Crazy Gamer. Too late, Krabby Patty. Awesome game, Crazy Gamer has not responded. I'm gonna do one more after this if Awesome Crazy Gamer. He's not here. Jeez. All right. Well, life is tough, and I'm gonna continue to draw. I'm not gonna go back. Sorry, Krabby. You had to be here during the minute. It's not fair to the other people. All right, here we go. Time is up. Deadly Viper. Too late, Awesome Crazy Gamer. Sorry. Deadly Viper. Rules are the rules. Deadly Viper, do you want it? You need to respond with a response of that you want it. Please say that you do, because sometimes people just enter just to enter, and then they're like, well, I don't really want it. If you don't really want it, that's fine. But we need to know. Okay. All right. I'm going to send this code to Deadly Viper on Twitch. Give me 1 second, and we'll get back with the development stuff. Just got to send this message. All right. It has been sent. I apologize to the people whose names were called, but I gave everybody a minute, and you know, if you didn't make it, you didn't make it. Yeah, I switched the thing, Retro. I mentioned earlier that I'm doing 12 or 1080p on this resolution. See you, Lilu. All right, so what have we got right now? We've got ourselves the player, the walls, the enemy. We have a sound effect when Safi kills Gizmo. The walls are solid. We can't go through them. And obviously we have our room. So what else could we do to make this like amazing? Let's put in a background song. A little bit of hunt music for Safi when she's on the hunt. So we're going to create a sound, and we're going to call this one sound background. Now remember, Viper, for that code, you're going to go to yoyogames.com, create an account. There's a link, I think, on there somewhere that says Humble Bundle users, enter your code here, your voucher code. That's your voucher code, what I sent you. So we have our sound file here, this Hitman. This is a Kevin MacLeod royalty-free song. And you can see when I selected this, it actually mentions that this is a compressed, streamed. This is going to use higher CPU because this is an MP3, but these are okay for background. So we're going to call that one sound background. Now, how do we get it to play? We're going to basically add it to the player object, because the player object's in the game all the time, and create it at the start. But what do we put it in event-wise? There's a create event, and basically that create event runs once when this object, the player, is first created. So what we're going to do is we're going to go then to the sounds, click this here, we're going to select our background, and we're going to set it to loop in case Sappy was really slow and the song was going to end. So let's see if that works. Now this is going to take a little bit longer too now to compile it, not a lot, but because it's now dealing with that actual MP3 file. Now you can see we have music. Sappy on the hunt. Yay! So Sappy wins. Beautiful hunting music. We could actually respawn, Gizmo. We could add code maybe, or add some stuff so that Giz continually respawns at different random locations on the map, but that's better left for another stream. Yeah, Sappy Power 101. She, great streamer, has been part of our community and is obviously doing a lot of great stuff on her channel, Sappy Power 101. All right, so now, amazing. We've got ourselves, this is not the greatest game, but literally we've done no code. We've typed no code, and we have some stuff. I hope you're teasing Spiky Red, because I think she does quite a great job, but we'll all let her know and she will hunt you down and kill you. Okay, so every great game, and this obviously is a great game, is it not, people? Is it not? Needs a title screen. So we don't want to use the current objects and everything on our main room and have a title screen on that. So let's create a new room just for our title. And let's call it RM, because that's kind of what we've been prefixing, the prefix for all these. And we'll just call it start. Or let's call it title. And we're going to set it to that same resolution of 1280 by 704. All right, and there we have it. We're going to go with that for a second here. Now we're going to drag it up to the top, because whatever's listed first is what shows up when you first start the game. So we've got our title now at the top, but we don't have a background or an image for that title. So let's go ahead and add a background. We're going to call this BG title. Let's edit, and let's go ahead and load, because I already made a title. And let's just save that. Let's go back to our title our title room, and go to the backgrounds, and let's select that. All right, so now we have our title image and our title room associated with it. So let's go ahead and save this and see what happens. Somebody can give Mr. Bob McWillie, I love the name, a permit. Exclamation permit, space, Mr. Bob. I'll do it. So let's run this. All right, now we have our kill the gizmo, and you can see Safi slamming her diamond sword into Gizmo as fire abounds. So, but what happens now? We're stuck here. We can't go any further. I mean, lovely title screen. I mean, I am quite the artist. Yes, it is rated M for mature, this game. So we need a way to get out of that title screen to proceed to the next room. So what we need to do is we need an object in that title screen room so we can tag some code to it. So let's just create an object and let's call it OBJ title. We're not going to associate any sprite with it. Okay, so we have that. Let's go into our title room and to our objects, and let's find our title. And we're just going to stick it up here. But it's immaterial because we're not going to actually see it. Now let's save it. So we have our title object in the title room. But we need to set up something so that we can actually get out of this title screen. So we go to the object title and let's add an event. And we're going to do a keyboard. And let's just, for the sake of it, just use the enter key. When the enter key is hit, we want to proceed to the next room. Now, I believe there should be a item for that, and you'll have to bear with me. I think it's rooms. Go to previous room. We don't want that. Let's delete. So we probably want this one. Go to next room. So when the enter key is hit, go to the next room. And let's now see what happens. All right, so here we are, kill the gizmo, rated M for mature because it has blood, strong language, and violence. And let's hit the enter key. Boom! We're in our game. Safi on the hunt. There we go. So literally we have our lovely title screen. We have our players, our walls, our sound effects, our background music, our different background images, the grass, the title, the different objects. We kind of got this title object, which literally is just kind of an invisible object in that room. And we've got our two rooms, the title screen room and then the next room. So you can see you could make, like, say it's like a Pac-Man game. You could have each room being the different levels. So we've done really good here. We've got quite a bit, and really we never touched any code. Now, I kind of cringe when I say that because there's only so much you can do through these methods of kind of the drag and drop and like creating all these different events. And if you were coding it, you could do things a little bit cleaner and not have to go through all this. And I think this does affect performance slightly too. But this is a great way when you're just getting started, and you can start to ease your way into the coding. And I think that's what really gets a lot of people confused is if you just throw them into coding, they get upset, they get confused, they can't find solutions, and they're stuck. But this method, very, very simple. And you can see I mean, we have accomplished quite a bit. Now, some of you guys are possibly Gamemaker pros and have used it before. Some of you may have spent a lot of time in the past with it. Some of you may have played with it and got confused or just dropped it or other tools like it. But I think it's pretty impressive just to see what we've done so far with really nothing. I mean, starting with I mean, I created these assets, but you could have kept these as solid colors. You didn't have to have the skins. You don't have to have the backgrounds. You can use just generic stuff as placeholders. I don't know if I want to make this a actual exe. If people really want to see it, like and download it and play the amazing game, what I would love to see people do. Maybe I could make the assets available, like the images, the music, the sprites, and those of you who want to could recreate this with Gamemaker because it'll work with the free version, and you can send me like a link to your version of it or your variation of it. So I'd prefer to do that because I don't think anyone really just wants to play this. I mean, but can you make this if I give you the assets, the sounds, the music, the artwork, that kind of stuff, the title screen. But let's do a few more little things. One of the things we talked about was we added the physics, but we really haven't added physics fully. You can get this game on Steam. It's being greenlit right now. Kill the Gizmo is looking to be. It's honestly, it's going to be 150 pounds, 100 and $300 per copy. So I don't know if many of you can afford this, but I'll try to later tonight put the assets up, and I'll put a link. I'll tweet out a link or whatever for people who want to try to create this themselves. I'll be having DLC, $100 probably per DLC for it. So, but let's talk about the physics here real quick. We did turn on some of the physics stuff, but if we turn it on fully, you're going to see some problems. And it's going to kind of force us to do some other stuff. And this might start to get confusing for people, and even me, because like I said, I've just started using it. But let's go to our room. And if you go into the physics tab here, you can see we have not turned physics on in this room, but we are going to. Now this is gravity. X is this way, Y is this way. We don't want any gravity because this is a top down. We're going to set the Y gravity to 0. And we're going to go ahead and save this. And let's just run it and see what happens. You're going to see some issues. Now it shouldn't affect our title screen because we actually haven't turned physics on in the title screen. But we hit enter and here we are. But now when I use my arrow keys, it doesn't move anymore. So we got a problem. None of our left, right, ups, downs are moving anymore. We have lost the ability to move. And why is that? Well, from what I've read and what I understand, the move commands and actions do not work on a physical world or a physics world. You have to use code to do this. So we're going to try to do this and see if I can figure out how to do it. So we're going to have to delete all of these. We're going to delete the movement ones. There's a couple ways. I mean, I could have left them, and there's a couple ways of doing it. And I want to show you. We'll show you one way. Let me just add one. We'll do it this way first, but then I'm going to change it. Yeah, use TP. So we're going to go to a left. But what we have to do now is we have to go and actually use some code here. So we're going to drag this in. Now this is a code editor. So this is when people might start going, Oh no. See ya, Krabby. Um, they may be like, I don't like code. Let me make this a little bigger. So one tip when you do the code is you want to, this uses traditional kind of like C, C++, comment style Java with 2 slashes as a comment. So we could say something like move, this is the move left code. This is just a comment. It actually has no code to it. But if you put 3 slashes here, and we'll just call it move left code. When I save this, it renames the action to that. So the first line, basically, if it's got those 3 slashes, forward slashes, whatever's after that is what it puts in the text for the action. All right. So now what we have to do is we have to move the object. And because we're using physics, there's an actual variable associated with this object because this event is for this object. So any code in here affects this object directly. Now you can see here there's different physics variables. There's position X, X previous, Y, Y previous. Now we want to move left, so we want to use X. So now this is where we're going to modify the position. And I'm going to minus equals, which basically says subtract 4 from this because minus equals 4 subtracts 4. If I set it to 4, it would just move the object to location 4, the fourth pixel. Let's real quickly talk coordinates here, just in case people are confused on a coordinate system. Here's some high quality artwork. The x-axis, so left and right, the top left of the screen is 0 on the x and 0 on the y. So if you want to move right, you increment x by 1. If you want to move left, you decrement it by 1. And if you want to move a little faster, you increment it by more. So for what we did a minus because if we go left, we want to subtract on the x. And if we want to go forward to the right, we go positive through the x. If we want to move down, which kind of is confusing to say we go up to go down, but we increment the y value to go down and we decrement it to go up. So we've put in a physics position here of minus equals 4 for move left. Now let's just go with this for a second and just see what happens. We don't have any code for right, up, and down. So you can see I can move left, but left works, up, down, right don't. So we're on track here. So let's go back and let's add an event and let's call it keyboard right. And we want to go to that control because we just want code. Say move right. And we're going to do our position. And you always end these lines with a semicolon in most cases. So now we've moved it to the, I'm going to copy this, to the right by moving 4. So let's do the down and up. Now we're going to be a little different here. And hopefully you guys, if you're following along, you figure this out. But for up, we'll do our code. But it's going to be Y here, not X. And remember, we said to go up, we actually have to go backwards. We have to subtract. Let's save that one. And now let's add a keyboard for down. Bring the code over. And we're going to make that +4. And you could change that 4 to a smaller number or a bigger number to make it move faster. And if it was a game maybe where, say you pick up a power up, we could do some code that said if we pick up a power up, let's make the player move faster. All right, so we've got a left, up, right, down. Let's go ahead and save it. And let's go ahead and run this. Here's our kill the gizmo. So you can see we move really good. Now I'm going to show you a little difference here. Uh-oh, what has just happened? You can see that we rotate now. So the issue is when we're using physics now in that room, so the objects can rotate. Now we don't want that. We want that to stop. So what we can do is, remember how I said this create event for the object happens once at the start. We can add some code right here. And we're going to call this setup code. Now you may be saying, why don't I call this stop rotation? But you'll get maybe why here in a second. And let's put a comment here. To say stop the rotation. Now there's a variable that deals with objects and their rotation, and it's called physics PHY fixed rotation. And here it is. So we click it. This has a true or false to it. So if we say true, it has a fixed rotation. It won't rotate. So we'll say it equals true, and we're going to save it. We're going to say OK. And now, hopefully, they won't rotate. So let's find out. So we have no rotation. Now you can also see too, we can do diagonals now because of the way we're implementing the movement. You can only have one key press at a time with the old method, but now we're directly affecting X and Y separately. So we can do diagonals much cleaner. Now it moves too fast diagonally, I think. There's more we could do. But let's go over here and see if we can get giz. There we go. So we've just taken care of that. Now I want to go back to that code though, because you can see here we have an action to play the sound, which we're using kind of their built-in actions, and we have our setup code. But one thing we could do is we can combine this, and instead of using all of these built-in commands, we could actually start to use code to do the play sound too. So let's just code in here and go down into the code. And let's put a comment. It's always nice to comment what you're doing so that when you come back later, you can actually take a look at it. And you'll know what's going on. Because if you put a lot of code in, you may start getting confused. My plugin for UHC, I think, is about equivalent of, when you look at all the files for it, I think maybe 3,000 or 4,000 lines of code. Not a lot, but that's still, comments can help you understand something you may have done 6 months ago. So we put in a comment saying play background music. Now remember, these comments, the stuff you see in green, doesn't do anything to the code. It just is there. Think of it like if when you're taking notes, you write down, like maybe if you have a book that you're allowed to write in, you like circle something and say this is important. That's what these are. But the code itself is the actual, say, like the book, the meat and potatoes, the author's information. You're the author, that's your code, but these comments are there to help you better understand it. Most of this stuff is very simple, so you really probably don't need to comment it because it's pretty simple to say, oh, this is a physics fixed rotation, so that's true for this object, we're done. But it can get more unwieldy the more code you write. So we have our comment here, but how do we play music? So there's an audio command and there is an audio play command. You can see here, play sound. Now, when you're starting to type the command, down here it tells you um, the options, because this command actually needs to know what sound to play, the ID of the sound up here, what the priority is, and does it loop. So what we do is we'll say it's sound underscore background. For the priority, we're just going to say 1. This is useful if you're going to have multiple sounds playing and you want to know what has priority over others. But we're going to just say 1. And for loops, we're going to say true because we do want this to loop. So hopefully what we've just done fixes that. And we can now get rid of this play sound background because we've added it in here. But you don't have to do that. I mean, you can do a lot of this type of stuff on your own just using the built-in presets. But obviously, the coding options start to give you more capabilities. Because one of the things we're going to show in our next stream, assuming people want to see this kind of stuff, I mean, maybe this will be a one-off stream if people want more. Obviously, I'd love to know if you like it, if you're enjoying it, if you hate it. But one of the things would be, this is all great and fine to have these left, right, up, downs and all that. But what if we want to use a gamepad or a keyboard? Do we want to use have the option for both? So it's not as simple to use a gamepad, and I want to do the gamepad in the next session, and we'll try to do some power-ups and stuff like that. So, but I mean, like I said, we'll see. I'm just curious what people want to see. But let's try this and let's see if it works. Let's save it and let's run it. All right, so here we are on our title of Kill the Gizmo. So we've got our sound playing. So we've recreated that one icon for the background music, but we've done it in code instead. And you can see the rotation. We're looking really good here. Let's go ahead and go over and kill Gizmo. All right. So that works fine and dandy. Now, but before we start to kind of wrap today, let's go back, because remember we replaced these left, rights, up and downs with code. We did this physical position, but we still have this no key that uses the built-in move command to set no movement. Let's just delete that. Let's just delete it and get rid of it for a second. And let's just rerun it and see what happens now, because now we don't have anything when we let go of a key. You can see when I let go, it stops. Why is that? Because we're using physics now, and the engine itself is taking care of that. It sees that we're not moving because we've let go of the keys, and it's stopped the character from moving. We still have our collision detection and all that good stuff, but we're looking really good, and we still kill Gizmo. So, I mean, we didn't even need it now because we're using the physics. We have our collision here, but we have our collision on the wall, and that's where we had the same exact effect. But let's just try something. Because we have the physics taking effect now, I'd like to get rid of this with code too. But do we need to actually do anything? Let's get rid of that, and let's go to our control, and let's drag a code object in. And let's call this one wall collision. And remember, if you don't do the 3 lines and put a description, this will stay as execute a piece of code. And if you do a bunch of these, it can get confusing. So you always want to make a descriptive on that first line, 3 slashes, and then put a descriptive message for what this code does. But we're going to just do that. We're not going to put any code in it. We're just going to say when it hits a wall, do this action. And there's no action really yet. And let's just see what happens. Because that physics engine is already taken care of stopping us. And we've already told it that the wall is solid. So let's just see what happens here. Will we go through the wall now? No, see, we don't. So now we've replaced a lot of the non-code with code. And there we go. Hey, weapon of choice. Oscodians, this is Gamemaker Studio. The Gamemaker Studio is, there's a free version. I'm using the professional edition. You can get it for $6 on Humble Bundle right now. Exclamation Game Dev. That'll give you all the links to the stuff that I've been using today. It has its own built-in scripting language, which is very Java, C++-like in some aspects. Depends on your familiarity. When I want to, I can actually do things like this. I can come up here and say File. I can create an application, and then I can create Crew Demo EXE, and this generates the game that I can then distribute to you guys. Now that is kind of the Gamemaker bundled version. There's also a way to generate a Windows app using the compiler. And I think you have to install Microsoft's Visual Studio, like version 2011 or 12. And it'll then compile an optimized true version of it. Whereas when you do this file, create application, it kind of bundles the Gamemaker player in the EXE. While it works, and for a game like this, it's no problem. Ideally, you want to compile your version. So, but if you want to play with this, this is available on Steam, the standard free version. It's also available on their website. I think the Steam version is quicker to download. But if you want to get the professional version for $6 and the professional version with Android options for $12, which is the program itself, the $6 bundle gets you the $150 professional edition, which lets you do Windows, Mac, and Linux games. If you pay the $12, you get not only the $150 Pro version, you get the $300 Android module, which lets you take this game. So I could actually take this and export it to Android, and you guys could play this game on Windows, Mac, Linux, and Android. So we've done a lot today. I mean, we've shown you the sprites, how they're basically a skin. They're not actually objects, they're just skins to put on objects. We've gone through what sounds are, that you can have WAV files for kind of like this case, the die sound, and you can have MP3s for like background music. You have background images, things that can be layered on a room. Objects, which are the physical like things in the room, the walls, the player, power-ups. You have those, and then you associate them with a sprite to put a skin on them. We had our player, which is Safi, our wall, which we just used kind of a Minecraft smooth stone, and we have the enemy, which was Gizmo. Then we have our rooms. We kind of showed that the first room here is where it starts. That was our title room, which we went into and we added the background here to it so that we had a background. We also added basically a kind of a generic object that's really not visible that contained in the code just to wait for the enter key to be hit. Yeah, you can make an app, but you need a $12 version. And there's also modules that you can buy for this for the professional edition that allow you to build HTML5 so you can make a web game. You can buy the iOS module that lets you make iOS apps for the phones from Apple and the tablets. The tooltip that pops up in the pointer hovers over something disappears. Um, are you saying with you? There might be a setting. I don't know. It will stay up if you don't move the mouse, Ed. It might be because I'm using push to talk. The push to talk is making it go away. I create a game development game. We'll make our own version of Game Maker. But anyway, I mean, we've shown quite a lot here. And if do people want me to put the assets up, which was these things here, where you, I mean, I don't necessarily need to give you like all these things, but like the dead file, the head, the grass, the music file, Safi, the stone, and then just this title image. Those are, basically all the things I added. Do people want these assets to try to create their own version of this, or are you just going to do your own thing? I mean, you can let me know. I mean, I can put up all the assets, or people can just who want to try to make their own and send me a link because I'll show like if you make a video of your game or whatever, I can show it on the next stream before we get started. And you're welcome to add stuff, but I mean, obviously, if you're an expert or you spend the next week getting crazy, you know, I don't want to like freak out people with a lot of cool features. I mean, I want to work slowly through stuff so people can build and build and build. So if you make like this and you have power ups and you have animated sprites, that's great. And those are subjects that we'll get into. But obviously we're doing things slowly in stages. But that is a point I want to bring up too. When you're doing your sprites, one of the things we're going to look into is these are very boring sprites. Not that Safi's boring, but there's no animation to it. What we want to get into is when you're walking, the sprite actually is animated. So maybe we'll start trying to look at making some or finding some free sprites that we can use that show walking animations. If there's anyone out there who's a very good art person, like Mr. Ed Tucker, the artist, people could create like 32 by 32 pixel sprites that show movement. So we can have like a walking left, a walking right, walking up, walking down, dying animations, things of that nature. Well, we can use placeholders and pre-existing stuff for that. But obviously, eventually you want to create your own stuff. The most important thing I want to stress when you're doing this stuff, don't try to do too much until you have made the steps to get to the baby steps to move towards that. It's very frustrating if you're like, I want to do animated sprites with collision detection, but I only want the collision detection to be a certain part of the sprite, and I want to have different sprites. Like I want to have trails, like when they run fast, I want to have like a trailing effect, like they're the flash, and I want the background to scroll, and I want this and I want that. Start slow, build upon it, because you can get frustrated very quick. But when you do the animated sprites, you basically make them like if it's 32 by 32 pixels, you would have your image go across the screen. The first 32 would be the frame one, the next 32, the next frame, and obviously cut. And it'll actually like pull the frames out of one single image, and then it kind of flips them like a book. So what are we going to do next time? And again, this is assuming you guys really like this. If you like this, please, let me know. Like the tweet, just comment on the tweet, something to let me know that you're interested. But some of the things we would do next would be to implement better keyboard control using some code, which would allow us to then hook into the controller, using an Xbox controller or a PS4 controller. So we can use the keyboard, we can use the mouse. Have a power up that when we pick it, it speeds up the player. And then maybe it has a cooldown. Maybe have Gizmo respawn at different locations and maybe keep track of score. Have the screen, the world be bigger, but Gizmo actually like is random in it, but the camera pans with you as you move, and we have to find Gizmo. He may not be in the same spot. And because if you see the whole map at one time, it's very easy to find him. So this make it zoomed in more, so it's harder to know where he is. Maybe even have like a time limit, and after so much time, you die. Things of that nature. But we want to go through in stages. Online multiplayer could be an option at some point. This thing does have the capabilities to do online multiplayer, but obviously that's a pretty advanced topic. Eventually, too, the goal is maybe when we felt like we've done a lot, we've done like a really maybe like serious, maybe a platformer, basic, but a platformer, or maybe it's an RPG, basic, but an RPG, that we can then say, okay, we've did it with Gamemaker. Let's try it with Unity. Let's rebuild the exact same game, the same assets as best we can, and do it with Unity. Maybe then at some point we try it with Unreal. Unity is freely downloadable. There are licensing issues if you're going to make a commercial game with it, but I think a lot of its capabilities are pretty much there. It's just when you start trying to make money from it. Unreal is the same way. You can download the full Unreal. I don't recommend that you just jump into those. GameMaker is very easy to start with. GameMaker obviously is not going to generate DayZ. It's not going to generate Ark or games of that nature, Reign of Kings. But it's a great thing for 2D stuff and a great start to get your feet wet. Unity starts to make 3D and 2D and 3D easier, and then Unreal 2D is a little bit tricky to do with Unreal, but it can be done, and then Unreal is really good for 3D. But Ark done in Unreal, and I think Reign of Kings was done in Unity. 7 Days to Die done in Unity, and we talked about in our earlier slides some of the games that were made with GameMaker, things like Risk of Rain, Hotline Miami, Nidhogg, and things of that nature. So I hope people enjoyed it. I hope people liked it. Um, if you want the assets or something, you can let me know. You could tweet at me or whatever. Send me a message. If you want to see more, please let me know. Tweet back. Uh, I'll probably do a game development thing maybe once a week like this if people want to see it. And we'll try to do some other giveaways and things. We will be back tomorrow with mystery games. I'm going to be continuing um, my mystery travels through the great LucasArts game that you guys hopefully remember. We got about, I don't know if we're halfway through it or not, but Grim Fandango, great game. We're going to try to finish that. And then Friday will be party night. We'll do some party games. We'll have some giveaways. And then Saturday, we'll be back with UHC. There are a lot of great YouTube videos and a lot of great streamers who are much, much more capable in GameMaker than me. So if you're very advanced and you want to move at a higher pace, those options are out there for you to learn a lot. Obviously, I'm trying to move slowly for everybody who wants to and kind of be more interactive with my community. We might do Rainbow Six. I don't know. I have 25 Rainbow Six codes that Ubisoft sent me to give out. So I know there's some people who don't have codes. I already have it from, I think I got signed up initially and got a code. And then I also have a Humble Bundle code for it. And then, of course, I've got the 25 codes. So we're going to be doing a lot of code giveaways. We might skip mysteries depending on how Rainbow Six is working. And I'll do a bunch of key giveaways to people who want to be able to play it. And I may or may not be doing the dev stuff this coming Wednesday. I've got some stuff going on next week, so I may have to delay or do it. I may have to do it on Monday next week instead of this Wednesday next week. So we might do the game dev stuff Monday because I normally don't stream on Mondays. But I've got some stuff going on. I'm gonna be kind of busy. Late the last couple days of next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I might be busy. So we may have some. The stream lag on this one, if you're saying it's amazing, it's probably because of two things. Well, one thing. But I did change the resolution to 1080p, which is higher than what I normally stream at, but I wanted the quality to look good. But I dropped the streaming bitrate to 2500, I think, maybe 2000 or 2500 versus my normal 3500. and I set it to 30 FPS instead of 60. So they probably haven't fixed it. It's just I'm not streaming at as high a resolution or as high a bit rate and frame rate as I normally do. And I wanted it to be more viewable by people. Hopefully it looked really good, the quality. Hopefully the screens, for those of you who have 1080p resolution, did it look good when you full screened it? While you guys let me know how the quality looked, because I know my game has got tons of detail. Let's play it one more time. Kill the gizmo. Let's do this. Should we get him? Should we get him? Boom! I think I need to have the music change there to like something really cool after she killed him. Text shouldn't be small when you full screen, I would think, though, because you're seeing the same thing I see. But if you have a low resolution display, even full screen might look bad. But I would hope that people who saw it full screen on 1080p resolutions that it looked gorgeous. So that's cool. So again, I wanted to put together the basics. If you're confused, you can always message me on Twitch if you have questions or problems, and I can try to help you out. Um, but obviously, follow things through. Pause the video if you have to, and I would encourage you, like when you see me do the sprites, maybe just create all three sprites. See me do the first one for the player. Go ahead and create the wall and the enemy ones yourself. Same thing with the sounds and the backgrounds. When I do one, try to do them all. Get things set up, and then unpause. And you can jump forward if you want to, jump back, things of that nature, and just see how many things you can do yourself once you start getting a handle on it. And like I said, this is a lot of fun, and you can do some fun stuff on here and everything. So maybe I'll try to compile this later for Android and give people an Android bundle that they can play this amazing game. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Congrats to I think it was it Viper or something like that who won the third person or whatever picked finally got the humble bundle. The not the humble bundle, but the actual pro version of this. I hope you enjoy it. Make lots of cool games, and don't forget all of us when you become super. Was it Spiky Red Shell? I forget who won it, but whoever it was, make sure you keep us in your hearts and everything. Give us free games when you become super famous. And like I said, I really enjoy this kind of stuff. I love game development. I love the indie scene, and obviously we've not made the most impressive game, but I think we accomplished quite a bit in really about an hour and a half or a little bit less of actual game development. So again, thanks guys for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with our normal streams and Deadly Viper one. All right. I knew it was something like that. But congrats, Deadly Viper. Enjoy the game. And I'll see those of you who are around tomorrow back to our normal gaming. And next week, we'll be back with some development stuff. Take care, guys.